somewhere in 1998, you go off 24 hours, and then you have light for 24 hours. In 2007, even around...
was it 7 or 6?
No, in 2000, and then it became...
Okay, 12. 7, I agree.
Yes,
because
1998. Then 2007, Ghana had 50 time. We actually said at a point that, because of Ghana at 50, you're not going to experience any, power outages. Then between 2012 to 2015, 16, thereabout, we had similar issues. Sometimes you have electricity for only 12 hours. You go on for 24 hours. But because of that, we actually had to go through the pain of installing a lot of generating capacity. Because in our words, it was enough to actually deal with the challenge. Over 5,000 installed capacity with a peak consumption of less than 4,000 megawatts. This should not create any problem for us as a country. But today, you are telling us, you, our discerning listeners, have told us the challenges you have with supply. Well, the Energy Minister was in Parliament somewhere last week and explained how issues with the West Africa gas pipeline was causing us problems.
We are getting more problems because we are producing much and we're not wheeling at least efficiently across the country. Our grid was very, very unstable, and because we are on a system such that when one side trips, you get a blackout in the country. Now we are facing a double whammy. Now we have put everybody on gas. As soon as the gas inlets shut, then all the power systems that we have, or generating systems, go off. So that is why if people see lights out when they go out now, it is more extensive than previously, because previously the liquid fuels were in the various thermal plants scattered around, right? So if one thermal plant goes on, the other liquid fuel thermal plants would also be firing. But now we link all these plants with one pipeline supplying gas. It's not like the cylinders in our house. So it goes through the tubes and goes around. So once you have a major cut at one end, the devastation is horrendous. And we don't have enough gas for our generation as we speak. We don't have enough gas. Because we are so much dependent upon somebody providing you the gas, and the gas wants you to pay, we are the beck and call of the West Africa gas pipeline. If you don't give them their money on time, they cut you. Or they restrict your ability to even put your own gas through the system. So as we speak, this is a major challenge for us, that from the west, we have gas there we cannot put in, because West Africa Gas Power System Pipeline Company is not allowing us, it's restricting us. And that's why sometimes we find that there are challenges with power networks.
So that's Energy Minister Matthew Poku Prempeh, and at the time he was speaking, yes, he said WAPCO was restricting us. But like I told you this morning, I'm learning from sources at the Energy Ministry that restriction is no longer there. So now we can actually have gas from the west to the east, and so that shouldn't be creating a problem. But in the midst of all of these, the TUC General Secretary has been talking, he's been calling on those who are responsible to be punished.
All these people who are carrying on doing so when we have even got excess capacity of electricity must be punished properly. If individuals are responsible, things happen. If institutions are responsible, they say if you don't want to do something, create a committee. But if you want something to do, give it to one person and ask him or her to work with whoever he thinks can make him or her achieve what you are giving him. Let's practice that one. Institutions, they don't have any face. People do what they do because they want to cover their face. They want recognition and reputation.
Great, so let's get into the conversation. Ben Boakye is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. He's in studio with us. Ben, good morning once again.
Good morning, Winston.
I hope everything is fine.
By God's grace, we're doing well. Yes.
Great, so Ben, what's happening? I mean, look, we're told, 550 megawatts because of WAPCO and shortage of gas. But if you look at even our dependable capacity and all, that shouldn't have been a problem for us as a people. Now we're told that, that has been settled. So why are we still experiencing these power outages? You've heard them this morning. People have called into the show, they've complained. And it's becoming more like an acceptance that this is our reality. What's the problem?
Yes, I mean, the power sector problems, I refer you back to 2014 diagnosis that was done by the IFC, where it was clear that the problems that we have in Ghana's power sector are financial, managerial, and technical. For almost a decade, those three, if you like, trinity of factors are still with us.
We're still going through financial challenges. I thought we had settled it. I thought, the tagline post 2016 was that from 2012 to 2016, when we experienced doom, so the problem was financial, and that has been solved.
And it's no longer a money problem.
Exactly.
The financial challenges of the energy sector today is even deeper than we've ever experienced. Except that, today the generating plants are here, and therefore, when ENI and Ghana Gas puts gas in the pipeline, power will be generated. But ultimately, the state, through the Ministry of Finance, will have to pay for it, because the sector itself cannot pay for power that is generated, gas that has been consumed, and produce power out of it. We cannot distribute and raise money to be able to pay the value chain. So we have a power system that today is doing about 30% to 35% of revenue requirement. To put it simply, what it means is that if you generate power of, say, $1 million, the power sector can pay for about 300,000. Ghana government has to go and look for almost 700,000 to come and top up for us to keep the light on. So that is essentially what
even after the tariff increase, because we've increased tariffs. We've told ourselves that we need to pay realistic prices, realistic tariffs, and that's why we've increased the prices. We're paying more. So
and essentially that's what even baffles us, those of us who have been looking at these issues. You trace back as back as last year, around June, we were doing about 50% of revenue requirement, right? How have we sunk low now to close to about 30-35% of revenue requirement? What that means is that the system is degenerating, and increasingly the budget is being sacrificed, to top up the energy sector revenue requirement for us to have the light on. And increasingly you even get to realize that what you think you know are the numbers are even deeper than that. You don't even know all the numbers. Recently you saw Ghana's assets being encumbered in London. It's because of the power sector issues and its debt issues. We also saw an attempt to securitize. Now even our oil resources are going to be aligned with the power sector challenges, where GOHL revenues, we're told, are being used to securitize some debt for car power and others to be paid for it. So we don't know how deep it's going to go if we don't put our acts together to fix the managerial problems, which would then seek to address the financial and the technical issues that we have in the system. You're talking about gas supply. We have gas coming from our own producing fields. That is from OCTP, Sankofa, and then also from Jubilee 10 through Ghana Gas. When these gas have been produced, Sankofa in particular, it is take or pay, right? So we have to use it to be able to raise money and pay for it. Even when we use it, we are not able to raise the money. The worst part is that when the pipeline is down and you're not able to use it, you still have to pay for it. All right. So that is essentially what happened, where the transmission company, which is WAPCO, it's not as if the pipeline is down for anybody to complain. There is no rupture. There is no fault with the pipeline. It's simply because we couldn't pay our bills. We couldn't pay the transmission charge that we're supposed to be paying WAPCO, which is a pass-through cost, actually. When you pay your electricity bill, the transmission cost is part of it. So nobody should complain that somebody is cutting supply because we're not paying our bills. When you pay electricity tariff, all the value chain costs are embedded in the tariff, but we've not been able to pay them and accumulated the debt to about, I think it was about $18 million, and they curtailed supply, but that didn't even last. I think shortly after they cut supply, government negotiated with them to make some payments, and when the first tranche, which is about $7 to $8 million was paid, they restricted the volumes. The gas pipeline actually has a throughput of about 400 mm SCAF. Compression today, I think, can do close to 200 mm SCAF a day. But what we've been doing was an average of 115 mm SCAF reverse flow from the west to the east. But the contracted volume is about 60 mm SCAF take or pay. So at all times, we have to pay them for 60 mm SCAF. So what WAPCO did was to restrict us to the 60 mm SCAF until we were able to settle substantial part of the debt. So what I understand is that we paid about 14 million and they opened full access to us. So today we're doing about 100 mm SCAF of gas through the pipeline. But again, the question is, are we going to accumulate additional debt, which would then result in another curtailment? Because it's the second time that they have done that.
Okay, I'll get to you on I'll get to you on that problem. But this morning we're talking about power supply. We're talking about the challenges that we've been facing over the period, which has led many of you to call us and say we need to have this conversation. And let me say welcome to all of you listening to us on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and also on ATL FM in Cape Coast. We've been joined by the Deputy Minister of Energy, Andrew Egyapa Mercer. Good morning, Honorable Mercer, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners, and my good friend Ben, who is joining you in studio.
Great. So I'm sure you listened to those who called in this morning, talking about the number of times they've experienced, outages this week, over the last week, in the course of last month and this month. And for them, they say this has become a regular thing. They ask the simple question: what is happening to our power supply? Are we back to a load shedding, and yet we are not telling them?
Well, I can assure you and all your listeners that we are not back to load shedding. Okay, indeed, listening to your program this morning was pretty refreshing. That today we've become used to, and rightfully so, deservedly, to consistent power supply, such that even a few hours of outage generates public outcry. As opposed to the periods where we actually encountered power outages for 4 years. Okay, clearly we made progress. As to whether it's a perfect system, no. But we got into the point where Ghanaians are getting what they deserve, and when there's a shortfall or there's a disruption, then of course you can hear the outcry. But clearly, we are not back to doom so. As you yourself indicated during your program, essentially 3 or 4 levels in the value chain. Okay, there's the fuel component, there's the generation component, there's the transmission, and of course there's the distribution into our homes. The fuel today is mainly gas, which is produced from the west, and what we buy from Nigeria through a West African gas pipeline, which then transports gas from Nigeria into Tema, and then also the excess in the west. Because remember, Ben made the point earlier as well that we have huge volumes of gas coming in from Sankofa, and then also some from Jubilee. Sankofa is on take or pay, about 210 million, 235 million scraps per day today, and then about 100 coming from Jubilee. All that cannot be consumed in the west, and so we have an arrangement with the West African gas pipeline to do a reverse flow from Takrady to Tema. So that's one aspect. And then there's the generation, which is mainly the IPPs who have invested in the power sector and are generating the power for us. That you indicate we have excess, which is in fact the case. And so it is not a question of a generational deficit that has caused any outages. In fact, even throughout the 2012 period, when we slept in darkness for 4 years, I mean, the data that I've seen clearly demonstrates that there was no shortage of generation. Okay, and of course, the Greco bit, which then transmits to ECG for ECG to distribute to our homes. On Sunday, there was some unanticipated outage. What had happened was that WAPCO had written to the ministry seeking a no objection to do a tie-in with a facility that Central Refinery has built and was looking to procure gas to power thing. So they wrote to us. We at the ministry then submitted their request to Gridco to give us an impact analysis. Gridco came back and said that the outage that they had requested between 4 a.m. dawn to 4 p.m. was going to lead to a deficit of about 350 megawatts. And so we went through some discussions and requested them to make available alternative liquid to power the plant during that period, which they did. They procured HFO and also contracted VRA to run a second plant at KTPS on diesel. And so that arrangement was put in place such that between the hours of 4 a.m. and 4 p.m., which was the scheduled outage period, we still had electricity being produced. However, the work, I'm told, delayed by about an hour, hour and a half. And so typically when you run on liquid and you turn on the gas, it takes a little bit of time for the gas to be compressed into the system for the power plant to then transition from liquid to gas. And so that's how come they went beyond the 6 p.m. peak period such that we had some outages for about 2-3 hours. By 9 o'clock on Sunday, all the systems had been restored. Okay, so that's really what happened on Sunday. We did not anticipate that the work that we were going to go, or at least the request that came to us, was that they were going to do the work within a 12-hour period. But some of these things happen, and you get a situation where you're unable to restore power within the time frame that had been requested. In the past 2 weeks, the incident that happened, I believe, has been explained extensively. There were some obligations to WAPCO, which then led to they initially limiting the flow to the contracted 60 and subsequently taking it off when it got to the point where GNPC was not paying them. That has been settled, and WAPCO is running full stream now, over and above the 60, and so there's no problem on that front as well with the gas. But yes, I agree that the sector has huge problems, which we are working round the clock to try to resolve.
Okay.
And if you look at the entire value chain, right from the fuel sources through the generation, through transmission, it is only at the distribution end that revenue is collected to pay everybody in the value chain. And so if there is a difficulty at the ECG end in collecting all the monies that they build, then there's a difficulty in paying everybody in the value chain. Beyond that, you have some excess capacity that has been contracted, which ECG has to pay. That power is not being distributed. It is not being consumed, but it has to be paid for. And so the question is, where do they generate the revenue to pay? Okay, so that problem itself is inherent in the system, for which government has to at all times make some funds available to take care of. And also because there's a shortfall in ECG's ability to collect, then that shortfall increases and government is called upon to pay that fund. And so it's really the collections and the losses at ECG end that then cascades to affect everybody else within the value chain. But the assurance is that government is working around the clock. There is no generational deficit that then would occasion outages as we saw in times past. Okay, the incidents that have happened in the past week or so are what it is that have provided information.
Okay. I still have Benjamin Boakye here with me and Andrew Egyapa Mercer. But before I bring Ben Boakye in, let me just get back to Andrew Egyapa Mercer, because you've made the point that, so because of the works on Sunday, but I mean, Raymond Akwa is here. Yesterday, he went off at 6 p.m., came back on at 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Others have complained about same. Some have said, I went off at 7 and the lights were restored at 11. There are those who went off at 6 p.m., lights restored at 6 a.m. Honorable Mercer, this is post the tie-in. But even before all our challenges, as some of our callers have said this morning, they were experiencing that post-Dum CC. So, what is causing that too?
Like I indicated to you, 3 levels. And so every morning we get an update on our gas situation. And then also our generation situation, all the plants that are running. And then every evening we get an update of the same. As far as I can confirm to you, no such report of either gas or generation came up yesterday. Okay, so as far as the ministry is concerned, there was sufficient enough generation yesterday to meet demand. And so if you have outages in some places, then it must be distribution. And obviously, you know that the system itself, even at the distribution end, has some issues. And if we talk of Dum CC, we've spoken about the transmission infrastructure that we've worked on, talked about bulk supply points that we've worked on, the Malam Kaswa line that we tend off to fix. So there's constant improvement in the system, okay, depending on how our financial position is. But like I said, yesterday there was no report of any gas outage or generation outage, and so I suspect that any outages that people may have encountered were localized.
Talking about localized, and since you say you didn't have any report, are there times that you've had report of shortage in gas and shortage in generation?
Well, generation is dependent on the fuel.
So are there times that you've had that report?
Like I indicated to you on Sunday, because of the work that WAPCO had requested.
So beyond Sunday, apart from Sunday, are there other times?
And of course, the time that WAPCO took off the reverse flow mechanism because of the...
And apart from that, have you also had that challenge?
No, we have not.
You have never had issues with shortage apart from these 2 days, these 2 events?
So we've published...
I'm listening.
We've published... We've published outage timetable in the past.
Yes.
When, for example, in September, ENI did a major maintenance program that then led to an increase in the gas from 210 to 235. we, with assistance of the Ministry of Finance, procured some liquid fuel to make up for that shortage in gas. And there was no outage. Of course, in March, April, Ghana Gas went off. We procured some liquid to make up. There was some delays, and we published the outage schedule for the Ghanaian public to be apprised of where it is that we were. Beyond these two periods that I can recall, since I went to the ministry, of course, last year or the year before, when we were doing the Boakye bulk supply point works, we published an outage timetable for the benefit of the Gambian consumer. And so these are the instances that readily come to mind that we have published. Beyond that, I'm not aware of any generational challenge as a result of capacity or fuel.
Let me bring in Ben Boakye. I'll get back to you shortly. But Ben, so you've heard from Honorable Mercer. He's talked about some of the challenges that you've also mentioned. But he says that, there's a constant improvement over the period.
Yeah, it's a power system, and I appreciate that it could be very complicated sometimes trying to address many challenges at the same time. But the reality is that the problems are here, and they are with us. Beyond even the scheduled maintenance and shutdowns that we do have in the gas value chain, are also compressor issues, for example, that sometimes you have a compressor trip, and that could also take hours to pack the pipelines again to deliver the required volumes of gas to power plants. And that is also becoming very rampant and recurrent. We had transmission problems where grid systems could trip and also affect the entire system. Also essentially has to do with money issues. All right. So I think for us, we need to be able to define what the problem is comprehensively and deal with it, because crisis manifests in various forms, and we can't keep referring our situation today or referencing it with the past doomsaw, which everybody knows was a terrible period in our history as a country, where for almost 3 years plus we had load being shared. What is the crisis that we have today? And the crisis we have today really is finance, which is impacting on the economy in general, and also the budget of the country. If you have to take 2 billion plus from the state resources only to keep the light on, it's a major crisis that we have to address. If you look at ACEP's estimation of what even the doomsaw cost this economy, ACEP estimated that doomsaw over its period cost Ghana about $2 billion. And you have a power system today that is draining more than that every single year from our budget. That is a bigger crisis for us to deal with, so that we are not telling people the light is on without telling them at what cost are we keeping the light on, when in fact it's about selling power, recovering the money, and paying the value chain. Why are we failing to deliver this? To the extent that we have to sacrifice the schools, the hospitals, the roads to be able to pay for electricity bill. And that's essentially what we are doing. And when government or the finance ministry is not able to bring that money to the table, then everybody else struggles. What even worries me is really the critical state agencies in this space. Because the IPP can say, I'm shutting down, and they'll get their money. WAPCO can say, I'm shutting down, and they'll get their money. When they shut down, haven't they gotten their money? They've gotten 14 million out of 18 million, right? VRA cannot do that. They only murmur and struggle in their difficulty. Gridco that carries the power to the substations cannot complain because it's a government entity, and they are struggling. Right, that's why we have these trips happening once in a while. So we need to comprehensively address the problem that we have, which is financial and managerial and leading to technical. And if we don't address financial and managerial problems in the value chain for us to sell power, recover the revenue, and be able to pay for the gas, the power plants, the transmission companies, we'll keep talking about these things for the rest of our lives. And already we've done 10 years, talking about the same, tripartite issues of financial, managerial, and technical issues in our power sector.
Okay.
And the burden on the state is actually deepening and increasing over time.
Now, let me just ask Honorable Mercer this, because you've made the point that, and he's also made that point. So these could be localized issues. But if the localized issues recur
consistently,
it means there's
around
a
the
problem.
same time with the same duration.
Because yes, if the localized issues, Honorable Mercer, if they occur around the same time, for the same number of hours, it raises more than just localized issues. And people today have told us how it's become a regular part of their lives. How do you respond to that?
You see, I agree with you entirely that if the generational issues, the outages become recurrent, you don't deal with them, then it creates more problems for the entire economy. Okay, but Ben makes the point about financial, managerial, and technical, and excludes a very critical component in the conversation, the contracting. Okay, because last 2 weeks, having some conversations with IPPs on outstanding debts that are due them, and 35% of that debt is excess capacity. So even if ECG is able to collect all the monies that they bill, that 35% is not going to be billed to anybody. And they have to pay for it. Are they even going to get excess revenue to fix the transformers and all the rest of the things that they are required to invest in to deliver reliable power to all of us? Okay. Yet, when we speak about these things, then we
when you say excess capacity, what do you mean?
Say it again.
When you say excess capacity, what do you mean?
It's power that we haven't consumed.
Take or pay?
We have to pay for because of the contract that we signed.
Okay.
Okay, 35% of
but we are signing new contracts. But we are signing new contracts.
No, we are not. Okay, so that is not to say that we will not need capacity to be added on forever. Because if you look at the trend, your demand is growing. And bear in mind,
so your demand will grow to take advantage of these ones. But you're signing more.
Wait. I'll explain. Okay, because we've had this conversation months. AXA, okay, it's already an existing plant. And their time has lapsed. Mm-hmm. You have to take two decisions, either to decommission and take it away, or negotiate for them to stay, because per the projection that you have, by 2026, 2027, you require additional capacity. So as opposed to 100% take or pay obligation, you say, look, I will guarantee you 40% dispatch. Look at the tariffs and reduce it so that we can give you a new PPA. What's wrong with that? In 2026, 2027, we'll require additional capacity. So you contract them to build another plant that then comes on stream at the time that you have the need for. What's wrong with that? But the fact, look, I don't have any qualms with the previous government signing all the contracts that they signed.
Okay.
And claim that, look, I was looking into the future, and so I signed all these power purchase agreements and on a take or pay basis. I don't have any argument, qualms with them.
Okay.
The point is, they did come at a cost. And let's deal with it.
Well, so it's
And
come
let
at a
the
cost.
Ghanaians take a decision
And you
whether
say, please hold on.
looking into the future.
Yes, hold on.
It's
Come at a cost, and you say you don't have any qualms with that. It's come at a cost, and as industry experts would argue, in the time you found yourself as a country, any private person coming to you would have done that to you. And that's why going forward, you're able to say, I'm going to take a 40% take or pay, because currently you have enough. But now, we are made to pay more for the power we consume. The least we expect is uninterrupted supply. The least we expect is the absence of localized challenges. How are you going to give us? Because I had to sleep in darkness on Sunday. The lights went off at about 9 p.m. The lights came back on yesterday at 5 p.m. And others are going through same. They're asking a very simple question. Since we have a lot of installed capacity, a lot of generating capacity, they say, when are you going to bring an end to what you term as localized problems?
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, for a minute, I realized that I've been taken off because.
No. We've not been off. I was just asking you how you're going to bring an end to what you term as localized problems, because for these persons, they have made payments. For these persons, they know that we have excess capacity, as you say. They know that we have enough generating capacity, dependable capacity. So why do we go through those problems?
Look, we'll keep doing the requisite investment in energy space, okay, all the way through transmission, through distribution. But like I said to you earlier, and these are no excuses, okay, that's the reality on the ground, that are you going to ask the Ghanaian to pay more, okay, so that ECG can have
we're paying more already.
Sufficient enough revenue. Well, you're paying enough already, but
yes.
That's why I said that
you're giving us automatic adjustment formula.
Some of the contractual framework that is in place is problematic, but we don't want to address it, right? Because when I was making the point, I realized that I've been taken off, and you were asking me a question that people expect to be. But that's a reality on the ground. If 35% of all that you are collecting is go to pay for power that you haven't consumed, would that not be a problem?
You
and
are
yes, I agree.
expected
There
to
has to be a lot of work.
You are expected to ring fence existing collections, and going forward charge prices.
We're doing a lot of interventions with respect to giving them resources to procure more prepaid. We've gotten support from the World Bank to enable them do more billing and collection. They've done a new billing system that is working. They had some glitches in the past. You recall their payment software issues that and all that. But like you hear the chief executive of ECG say all the time, we have to take away the politicking. Of course, thankfully today that's not the focus, okay? It's the Ghanaian consumer asking legitimate questions, and I'm saying that generational capacity, no issues there. We've had some challenges with fuel delivery and transportation. That's been resolved. We're looking to improve the cash waterfall mechanism continuously to ensure that whatever resources that come in, everybody in the value chain gets it. ECG has gone into an arrangement with all the IPPs to pay them a certain guaranteed amount of money per month, $43 million per month. At least from July or so, consistently they've been paying that money. We've had conversations with Ministry of Finance to support them in paying the local generators and transmission companies some additional support so that they also can survive. Okay, but yes, I agree. We are looking at a comprehensive reform of the ECG system to ensure that we are able to collect as much of the money that they bill to ensure that everybody else in the value chain is paid.
Okay.
And have some extra to fix the technical issues that they have, that then enables them to deliver power to the consumers at all times. I'm saying that it's not a perfect system, but obviously we all have seen the improvements that we have witnessed. It's not the end of the road. We will continue making the investments to ensure that we deliver optimal service to the people of this country.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Andrew Egyapa Mercer. Of course, it's an ongoing conversation, but that's all time would allow us for now. We're grateful that you made time to join us. Ben, yes, you've heard from the Minister. Raymond, you're still here with us. What's your final take?
Yeah, so I think I'll repeat again that we need to really look at the problems that we have and comprehensively seek to address them. We shouldn't always be explaining the problem when they happen, but there are bigger issues to address. It's a simple case of generating power, selling the power, recovering revenue, and addressing financial challenges within the value chain. And that is what we are failing to do. And that is managerial. We need to have grips on what capacity is required to be able to manage a power system efficiently for us to have the light on, so that we don't keep talking about this. I mean, 2017, I would have agreed that there was a contingent excess capacity. And we started talking about excess capacity as back as 2015 when the contracts were being signed. All right? And we don't wait for these things to crystallize only to talk about them. And it's always as if we are happy talking about problems and not how we can solve the problem. Even as we speak today, if you open your lines right now to ask how many people are looking for meters from ECG for months and they have not had it. I certainly have 2 applications that have not been addressed in 4 months. So if people want power and they cannot get the power to use it, how do we complain about excess capacity? People don't have light. They are in darkness. They need power to do business. They can't get the power. Yeah. And we are complaining about excess capacity. Right? If you anticipate that you need power in 2026, and you are signing on take-or-pay today, even if it's 1% take-or-pay, you are paying it today. So how do you complain about excess capacity? That's the excess of your capacity you have signed, 40% of 360 megawatts. So that is not an excess that you are paying for. And AXA, I agree. In 5 years that it stayed in Ghana, it only worked 16% of the time, and it got paid in full. So why are we signing take-or-pay with a contract, a plan that has been paid in full? These are genuine questions that we have to ask. So we are transacting to deepen the problem, and we want to explain it away. And that's, for me, is really the problem that we have to agree that we can't do business as usual, commercializing the fiduciary responsibility that people have to create the problems, and then we only explain it away. The problems we have in Ghana can be simplified into procurement. We are procuring, and everybody is busy procuring, and the problems are not being resolved. You can go to ECG, you can go to all the sector agencies and check how many of their contracts go into tender. They're all doing a direct negotiation and sole sourcing, contracting expensive things, and then it generates into problems, and all of us have to pay for it in one way or the other. So that comprehensive review of the problem and addressing it is what, for me, is missing, and that's why we keep explaining why we still have energy sector challenges. But to the extent that today, about 70% of the revenue requirement cannot be recovered from the tariff or the sale of power, it's a major crisis on our hands that we really need to address as a country.
Raymond.
Which hopefully should be solved by the people we pay to do so. Because that's really all that they are supposed to do there. If we have had problems for the last decade and beyond, and we pay people every single month, sometimes ridiculous salaries, to solve these problems, and the problems are not being solved, and they become experts in explaining the problems, as if it's not their responsibility to solve them. Because Ben can explain the problem too, but we are not paying him to solve the problem. The physical part of all of this is that it is happening. We wish it away, we pretend it's not happening, and yet it is happening. People experience it. Nobody will have a power challenge and wake up the next morning and say that I had them. So what's the point? I mean, nobody grovels in that kind of experience. But yet we are not being told that next week it will not happen again, or the incoming month will fix it permanently. We are never in that corner. We are always having conversation. Some people contracted this, some people bought new plants, and the plant is. Why are we having people we are paying to do the job? Why should everybody abandon their job, now be listening to your explanations, when again your explanations do not fix the problem? So I have no sympathy for the people who are in the sector today. I actually think that we've endured this for far too long. Virtually every 3 or 4 year cycle, we are back to having the same conversation. And yet people are being paid every month to make sure the lights are on. And the worst part is that when you buy your prepaid, you have gone into some form of contracting with the people to supply power. You go and slot in your card, they give you as and when they want. If it were to be a restaurant, I'll not go there again. But I don't have the option.
Yeah.
So we are basically in a tight corner. We don't know what every time you are increasing the bill. Those days we used to complain. We will go on demonstrations, but we stop complaining. And we are paying the new bills. At least I know I'm paying.
And I'm paying too.
So how come when it comes to delivering your side of the bargain, you have long explanations and excuses about plants that were procured whichever period?
Thank you very much, Ben Boakye, who's the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, for making time to join us this morning. And earlier you heard from Andrew Egyapa Mercer with a promise that they would continue working to improve the system.